Hello, beautiful soul family. Rebecca here, your vibe mentor, helping you raise your vibration so you can live your best life. Wanted to have another conversation around the topic that we discussed in the previous video around just asking hard questions, but more so, more specifically structured around spiritual bypassing. And that was referenced a bit in yesterday's video or video a couple days ago. And it's worth continuing the conversation that this is a real thing, and I would say it's probably the biggest thing holding spiritual people back right now. And I have to say, it shocks me that I am surprised how many people feel that they are doing the work, feel that they are on the path, and claim to have a high desire to ascend and to go to the next levels, to step into their purpose, to heal and be whole. And yet there is a very strong distaste for doing the work that is necessary to be whole and facing the shadows and to healing the traumas and the blocks that hold us back. And so it's another conversation that just has to be had. While it's not necessarily a fun one, oftentimes we don't want to talk about the things that we avoid. We avoid them for a reason. And yet those are the very things that keep us stuck and keep us from self-actualizing, to stepping into our purpose and to actually assisting in creating the new earth and heaven on earth, which is what we are here to do. That we are spiritually debilitated by our inability to face the real issues at hand. And so the term is called spiritual bypassing. It was first coined in the 80s by a transpersonal psychotherapist named John Welwood in his book Toward a Psychology of Awakening. So highly recommend it. Check it out. According to Welwood, spiritual bypassing can be defined as a tendency to use spiritual ideas and practices to sidestep and avoid facing unresolved emotional issues, psychological wounds, and unfinished developmental tasks. And so we oftentimes feel like, well, I've gone through the dark night of the soul, or, I've been on the path for 10 years. I'm doing the work. I'm healed. I healed all those things. I feel great now. Right? And yet we are refusing to see that these things are housed in the body and that we are not whole and complete until we spend the time getting deep in the roots of those traumas and understanding how they play out in our life and doing the work to heal the trauma. For so long, we have felt that trauma was just something we always have to deal with. It's always going to be there. It's never going to go away. So it's okay to have blinders and just pretend that it's not there, to look the other way because I can't heal it. Well, that's no longer the case. That there are modalities, something like brain spotting that I've been introducing is very intensely over the last couple of weeks. And that is working, and it does work wonders. And there are no more excuses, essentially, that there are ways to fix and heal trauma and all of the wounds that hold us back. The body is designed to heal. We are here for the purpose of transmutation, and we are alchemists, the alchemists of trauma and healing. And so this is possible. So no longer is spiritual bypassing something that we can justify. Right? Basically, it means that we're using spirituality as a defense mechanism or an excuse to ignore the issues that need to be dealt with. And the problem is that when we're using spirituality to protect ourselves, it doesn't actually resolve any of the issues. The root of the weed is still there. You're going to keep growing the weed. The trauma is housed in the body like glass shards, and that you expend all of your energy, or a vast majority of your energy, trying to move through life without getting triggered, without moving those glass shards in a way that might poke an organ. How on earth can you build the new earth if all of your energy is going towards the avoidance of these issues? And do you understand, can we even begin to collectively fathom the power that is available to us to create heaven on earth? That we literally are an unstoppable force when we are whole and complete and collectively coming together to collaborate. But the truth is, we may not be so afraid of our trauma. It may actually be the power that we are afraid of. That oftentimes the fear of being seen, the fear of unworthiness, the wound of unworthiness, the trauma has told us it's not safe to be seen. We have to play small to protect ourselves because our power is so immense. Because our light shines so brightly, we make other people uncomfortable. But we have avoided what it takes to move into that discomfort and to stand like warriors brave at the eye of the storm. To say, yes, I trigger you, and I'm okay with that. Because what you're feeling has everything to do with you and nothing to do with me. That those emotions that come up in people when we trigger them is their gift. It is the very thing that is going to lead them to wholeness, that is going to heal them, that is going to surrender every ounce of resistance in their body to the authority and power that they were given. Their God-given gifts and rights and abilities to have a purpose, to make something amazingly beautiful and assist in creating the new systems for the new earth. It is that power, shining brightly, that scares us the most. So we have to ask ourselves some questions. I mean, we asked some tough questions in the last video. I've got a couple more for you today. I'll be softer today, don't worry. These are just thought-provoking because we really have to understand, what is your why, right? Everything that I do is, if you look at the acronym VIBE, value and intention-based education. What is your value? What are you here to do? What is your life purpose? And what is your intention? What is your why? What drives you? So these questions will really help us think. It caused pause for even me as I wrote these questions. Oftentimes this is downloaded. This is not just the encyclopedia of Rebecca. There's gifts in these messages and I'm just the conduit. So really stop and ask yourself, pause the video if you have to. How do you define spirituality? What is spirituality? What does it mean to be a spiritual person? Is it to be kind and loving? Is it to be in the spirit? If you look at the root of the word spirituality, to be in the spirit. Or you can look at the yogic tradition, to do no harm. Is it the pursuit of happiness that led you here, to get out of depression? Do we just adopt spirituality as a label, or say we're on the spiritual path because it gets us out of discomfort? Is it the pursuit of happiness, or is it a pursuit of meaning or purpose? Do we realize that we're seeking oneness and connection? And yet we also isolate. Is it about ascension? And what does ascension even mean? Right? Ascension is to level up to higher and higher, more superior positions. Is that how you would define what you're trying to do? We want to level up. We want to self-actualize. We want to get better. But do we really? Do we want to do it so that we can feel better about ourselves? Again, addressing the unworthiness wound. Do we do it so we can feel better than others? To surpass others? To be superior? What about the term enlightenment? What does it mean to be enlightened? The dictionary definition, the state of understanding. What are we trying to understand? The wholeness, the oneness, the peace, the joy. Really think about what these things mean and why are you doing what you're doing? Why do we wear this badge of honor and yet not do the work? Really ask those questions. Why? Why do we have one foot out the door? We're partially in, but we're really not fully committed if we're bypassing. Why do you seek enlightenment? Why do you want to be a spiritual person? Why do you claim the spiritual path? Likely it's driven by our desires. We all share. We want peace. We want fulfillment. We want freedom. We want wholeness. So really get clear on your why, because as you go through this and you start to understand, well, I don't want to face my fears. I don't want to face my shadow. I don't want to heal my trauma. I don't want to do that work. I just want to meditate and be in love and light all day, which is great. That is the goal. But you're never actually going to fully, truly get to that place and in a sustainable way without doing the work. And so if peace, joy, fulfillment, freedom, wholeness, accomplishment, contribution, being of service, if those are the things that really truly drive you, if at the end of the day that is your highest priority, number one, there can only be one, you cannot serve two masters, then that is motivation enough to get your butt off the freaking couch. Stop being in hermit mode. Do the work. Step into your purpose. Self-actualize. And if you don't really want those things, then be honest with yourself that maybe we're not on the path. Maybe we found a couple tools to put in our back pocket to use next time I feel anxiety or depression, but I'm actually really kind of happy where I'm at, and I don't really want to go much farther. I'm not willing to step out of my corporate job or comfort zone. I'm good. Thanks. That's okay. You may have incarnated on this life to stay in the cocoon. That's okay. One of my core tenets is to do no harm. And so if your life path is cocoon mode, I support you fully, and I will love you from here. But my job in this lifetime for me is to be a bit of a disruptor, a bit of a mirror. And there was a time in my life, especially very young, where I realized that I provoke people. I don't do anything, just show up. Just my pure presence aggravates people. The beauty is when I heal the trauma and I remove the layers of who I thought I was, the way I chose to live, the way I defined myself based on what they wanted me to be, that a father who told me I was a sinner and a liar taught me to not speak and to feel like I'm bad. So I shrink back and I become quiet and I don't speak my truth. Or my mom who didn't show up for me, I allowed myself to hold that anger and hurt and pain in for a long time. I learned that love was hurtful and more trouble than it was worth, and I chose not to speak my truth. That I became passive and easygoing, easy to get along with, no trouble, I won't rock the boat. I'll say what you want to say. I can sense that you're discomfort. I can sense your discomfort or that you're uncomfortable, so I'll make sure not to say anything more. I'll make sure to coddle you and tell you how beautiful and awesome and amazing you are so that you can feel comfortable in my presence. That's trauma, Rebecca. True, original, core, authentic Rebecca just is. And however you feel about that is your gift to you. And it says nothing about me. And I'm just using that as an example to take a look at who you are in your life and how you show up and how that may be driven by those core 0 to 7 years where you learned to play small. You learned how to not rock the boat. And how you can recognize, you can look back and see, I really had an interest in dancing and creative expression and humor. But I buried those things when I decided it was too much pain to ask for what I wanted and be rejected. And so we can know that at a cognitive level, but yet we are not able to stop the trauma responses, the overgiving, the fawning, the pacifying, the running, the overcompensating through humor or self-deprecation. They feel so habitual because we still have the program of trauma running in our bodies and in our subconscious brain. And without removing it, without doing the work, you will never be who you were built to be. You will never have the impact on the world that you are here to have. And again, if that is your choice, you will always have free will, and it is my job to do no harm. But it is also my job to deliver this message. So if it's not for you, it doesn't resonate, click off. That's great. But I will not shrink back anymore. We have to stop with the bypassing. And I will say, this is all, I'm just a few steps ahead. Anytime I deliver this message, it's usually something that I've gone through most recently. It's the theme of what's coming up, and it is no accident that the message is coming through now. Because collectively, the shit is hitting the collective fan. We're all in this what the fuck moment. Who was I? Who am I now? Where am I going? This raw, bare, pure potential is bursting forth in many, many people right now. You are not alone. So I have to find my place here. When you understand your why, you remember your need for wholeness. You know that you can't fully accomplish your intention without being whole. So you have to ask yourself, do you believe that peace, joy, fulfillment, and freedom can actually come? Can you reach the highest levels of freedom and wholeness without healing? Can you tell yourself that lie any longer? And if we're not willing to do what it takes to be whole, then we are bypassing. So healing is a requirement for this path. Not perpetual hermit mode. There is a difference. Healing is equal balanced action and listening. Guidance, action, guidance, action, guidance, action. Not sitting on the couch every day, all day long. There may be a period of resting and sleeping. Maybe you've experienced something so extremely traumatic that you had adrenal fatigue and you needed a couple months off. I've been there. I get it. It's real. Things are coming through, so I'm feeling kind of hot here, peeling back the layers. But it's not months beyond a couple months. It's not years. It's not perpetual. It's not lifelong like it has become. If you are on the couch and you have been on the couch or in your bed for an extended period of time, more than a couple months, years, that is a trauma response. You are in shutdown mode and you are hiding because you are afraid to be seen. You're afraid to show up. You're afraid to shine your light. You're afraid of judgment, rejection, pain, more of the trauma. And I get that. That's okay. But reach out for help. Talk to someone who is trauma informed. Work with me through brain spotting. We can heal this very, very quickly. Very effective methods. Proven. Again, it's not about me. Work with somebody else if you need to. Get help. Get off the couch. Right? Okay. I need to stay on task here. Sorry, this is getting a little long. Yes, we have to ask ourselves if we're truly on the path or if we're just using this as an excuse. And sometimes it's a pretty sugar-coated version of disassociation or avoidance. I'm on the spiritual path. I'm going to go meditate. No bad vibes here, only good vibes, right? That we have to experience the full range of emotions and we have to allow all of it to come up. So if you can honestly say that you're willing to do the work and face the hard things, then we can start to look at how this might show up in our life. So here's a few symptoms. Avoiding anger, avoiding hard feelings, labeling our feelings as good or bad, believing in our own spiritual superiority as a way to hide our insecurities, to feel better about ourselves, to heal the unworthiness wound, using spiritual practices such as meditation to avoid speaking your truth or conflict, feelings of detachment, distraction, avoidance, lack of focus, lack of attention when something difficult is being brought up, focusing only on spirituality and ignoring what is in the present moment and asking for your attention. Perpetual hermit mode, like I said, for the sake of never-ending healing, avoiding taking action towards self-actualization or life purpose, only focusing on the positive, projecting your own negative feelings onto others, pretending that things are fine when they are clearly not, and thinking that you must rise above your emotions, right? Yes, if you have a habit of negative thinking, it's important to reprogram the neural pathways and create new, more resourceful tracks that play in your mind. But if you have been on a general high vibe trajectory for weeks and months, and something comes in that takes you down, don't avoid that. Don't shift back into everything is awesome, which is one thing I suggest when we have negative thought habits, but we also have to allow space for that. You have to say, something's trying to come through, something's trying to get my attention. I'm going to sit with this. Maybe it's a week even. But the faster we start recognizing it, listening to it, moving through it, the faster it will move through. And then, of course, using defense mechanisms such as denial or repression is also another example. So an example of how this might show up is like if you see a friend or a relative who's doing something that is hurting others or yourself, but you don't say something, right? That's lack of boundaries as well. Or like I said, if you feel like you've been on this high vibe and you have sort of a dip or a crash, allow that depression or sadness to come through and look at the message, because it has something for you. There is a gift in that all emotions are working for you, not against you. It is because we've felt that we got stuck in depression or we got stuck in negativity at one point that we're afraid of going back to that stuck place. But there's a difference when you learn how to, especially when you use brain spotting, it allows you to learn how to ride the waves of the emotions, that they will ebb and flow, they will not overcome you, and they will not stay forever as long as you give them your focus and attention, right? The good vibes only scenario can become the very block that's holding you back. It's toxic positivity. When we're bypassing, we're using other spiritual philosophies or modalities to avoid dealing with negative feelings and reactions to those feelings, right? We must feel it to heal it. And that means more than just a couple seconds of, we're going to feel this, and then coming back. No, 10 minutes, 30 minutes, an hour. I highly recommend 30-minute brain spotting sessions bi-weekly, which is what I offer, because even that, it could be longer. It's so effective to sit in that for an hour or 2 or 3. You might become a little overprocessed after 3 hours, but there is more time than you would expect needed, is the point there. We cannot discriminate on which feelings we heal and which we distract from. All feelings are necessary. The full range of emotions is required. The full range of emotions is required. That includes pain, sadness, a broken heart, anger, rage, resentment, apathy. All things we would say are bad emotions. There are no good or bad. They just are. They're all part of the process. And we cause a much bigger issue when we label or judge them. That all emotions are our friends, and every single one of them serves a purpose and points us in the direction of healing and wholeness. So what's the downfall of bypassing? If you do bypass, what happens? So what, right? Negative emotions are normal, and they're a sign that something needs to change. So if you're not paying attention to them, that thing doesn't change. Avoiding issues that are asking for our attention makes them worse. They grow and they increase and they take up more space and more energy in your body and in your energetic field. The problem becomes greater and it is more difficult to solve later on. Ignoring the signals can lead to a worse problem down the road. And not acknowledging what needs to be addressed or changed is like chaining yourself to a freaking boat anchor. You will not go very far. And you wonder why you feel stuck. Because they are unaddressed issues that are holding you back and causing stagnation. It will limit your potential. It will keep you from wholeness. It will prevent you from living out your purpose. And most of all, it will prevent you from experiencing the freedom, the joy, and the fulfillment that we all deeply desire. You will never actually break through the glass ceiling of trauma if we're not willing to address and sit with lower emotions. We'll also experience depression, anxiety, codependence, control issues, dysregulated nervous systems, disregard for personal responsibility, emotional confusion, kind of that waffling back and forth. What do I do? What do I do? Where do I go? Where do I go? Excessive tolerance or unacceptance or inappropriate behavior in general, feelings of shame and guilt, and even, heaven forbid, spiritual narcissism. Right? That spiritual narcissism is when we use spiritual practices to increase our self-importance or judge others. And it's by using that spirituality that we claim we're building someone up, and yet we also turn around and use it as a weapon against them. But I digress. We don't need to go back to that. So bypassing. We cannot suppress our negative emotions to avoid discomfort. If you feel triggered by somebody, if somebody says something and you go, yeah, I don't like that, gotta go, bye, there is something in that for you. What are you afraid of? What trigger, what nerve was just hit there? Look at that very closely. That is the most precious gift you can have, because it is a mirror to say, this is huge and it's holding you back and it's taking a lot of your energy. If somebody says, hey, I've got a course and coaching program and it's $2,000, and you go, oh my God, how could she? How dare she? Whoa! You have an abundance block. How's your receiving going? But I digress. So we cannot avoid any of our emotions, especially to save other people from their difficult emotions, even if it makes both parties uncomfortable. Learn to sit in the discomfort, to ride the wave like a freaking warrior, because it is a wave and it will dissipate. It's a question if you've run away before it does, because if you have, it's going to come back again. So trying to save or shield others is also a form of spiritual bypassing. Authentic spiritual progress or spiritual paths does not suppress or avoid any emotions, especially valid ones, just because they're uncomfortable. The bypassing can include spiritual activities, especially in order to feel superior or to avoid meaningful action, which I think is the biggest issue that I have seen, is that the avoidance of meaningful action, meaningful progress, meaningful effort, attention, and focus on the root causes of the problem is the biggest miss that I see in the spiritual community right now. So a good example would be, instead of talking about conflict, maybe a trigger or a trauma wound, we would rather go meditate. I'll meditate on it. I'll call in divine assistance to heal it, and therefore I don't have to focus on it. It doesn't work. It doesn't work like that. The problem is that you're using them as a shield to make yourself feel better instead of for true spiritual reasons. So the difference lies in the intention. Again, going back to the why. What is your intention? What are you really trying to do? And are you using them as a way to make yourself feel better about yourself, which again is the unworthiness wound, asking for healing, or are you truly using it for spiritual growth, ascension, enlightenment, moving towards wholeness and truly, truly becoming free? Tough questions, I know. Tough topic, I know. Not easy, I know. Long topic. Thanks for bearing with me. I know it's worth it. And if you're ready to do the work, I am here to help. And I can promise you, if you make the commitment to yourself, it doesn't have to take long. It doesn't even have to be painful. There is more energy spent in avoiding it than there is moving through it. That you are this freaking close to a breakthrough in your life, to complete and true wholeness, complete and true leveling up, the joy and the bliss that is sustainable and not superficial and ever unfolding is available to you once you make that commitment. Reach out and get help. Complex trauma it comes from the feelings of being unsafe, unseen, unheard, uncared for, or unloved as a child. From ages 0 to 7, you receive the program of somehow I'm broken and not enough. It is impossible to heal that on your own. You have to have help, whether it's me or somebody else. If you know that this is what you're dealing with, don't bypass it anymore. Get somebody to help you. Okay. I love you guys, and hopefully we'll be on a more uplifting note next week, but I'm not going to make that commitment. We will flow with whatever divine guidance says we will flow with. All right. I love you guys. I'll see you in the next video.